Hi everyone. The first online collaboration tool that I chose was called DebateGraph. So in order to get to DebateGraph, you go to debategraph.org. This is a free online program. It's a website that allows students to make mind maps and add and comment on different ideas within that. So I actually created my own. I signed up using my personal Gmail account. My students right now have personal Gmail accounts through school, so they could sign up using that. And so the first mind map that I decided to make was Will It Float? I use debates and discussions in my classroom, usually for things like discrepant events. So, how do we know? Show them a demonstration and say, wow, this is weird. It doesn't really follow what we were doing. How do you think it works? And this would be an opportunity either synchronously or asynchronously for our students to go on and talk about what they just saw and be able to look at other students' ideas. So here I have a probe that I use in my classroom. I just thought it would make for a good start. So Will it float? I do a formative assessment probe on will things float? And actually, if you look over here to the right, you can see the worksheet I would hand out in class. And I uploaded it to this debate graph, and as a picture, I added it in. So it talks about Lance, and he has a thin, solid piece of material. And basically the idea is if he drilled holes through the solid piece of material, what do you think would happen? Do you think it would sink? Do you think it would float? It would barely float? Or it would somehow bob up and down in the water? So students would be able to come in and they would be able to pick their choice. So maybe it will sink. And so they can click on this and they can add their own ideas. So I added a few just to get started so I could see how the whole thing worked. And I could say, okay, well, I know that boat. So I added the idea of boat. A boat, when a boat gets holes in it, then they sink. Or maybe I have a pool float. And I know that when I was at the beach this summer, my pool float got a hole in it and it sank to the bottom. So I can click on that idea. If anyone wrote anything else, I can make a comment on this saying, well, maybe my pool float was filled with air and that's why it didn't float. It didn't float because the air went down, or the air went out of it, and that's what made it sink. So I can post that, and it's added to now a thread. And I can look on the thread. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to use this in my own classroom, but this is kind of the idea. Now, if I was like, well, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense, I could then reply to the comments of a classmate over here on the right and have that discussion go back and forth. It will sink. So maybe I don't believe it will sink. One of the things I can do is add an idea. At the bottom here, I can click Add an Idea, and if you look at the bottom, I might be taking a position. I can make an opinion. I could give you some information. They also have a protagonist, and all the colors here represent these different things. So is this an issue? Am I taking a position? Is this just my opinion? Or do I have some information to back it up? So students would go in and they can type in what their position is and how that might help them make their arguments. This is a great collaboration tool because students can not only, sorry, I'm going to cancel this out. They can not only make their own positions, but then if you look at the boat, I say, okay, this is a good idea here. I can take this, and if I go to the Details tab, I can actually rank how I think this idea relates to the prompt. So I could say, I think this gets an 8. And what happens is, as the classmates rank the votes on how good your evidence is, these lines become thicker. And so as we go back to the map, I can actually see when I have some evidence. The line's getting thicker and thicker and thicker with all the comments that are made and the ratings that are made on the comments. So this would be a great way for students to connect and to talk. They can see the details. So if I want to add pictures, if I want to add videos to my evidence, I can do that here in the details. If you look at the edit details under my prompt, you can see that I actually added the picture of the probe that I would give in class, and then I can save it. I can add files, I can add pictures, I can add links, I can add video, I can add tables. So there's lots of options for my students to support their points. The other thing I like about this collaboration tool is that it gives you an outline. So if you don't really like the mind map format, there's another way for you to go through. If you see, it will sync. I actually have my two examples in here. So this would be a fantastic tool to get them to talk to each other. Another great thing about this is it can be done synchronously or asynchronously. I can actually get, if I go down to the, go up to the share link, I can actually embed this, and it's a little difficult. But if you look over here, I'm going to move my webcam out of the way. I can embed this into my Schoology platform or whatever platform I'm using in order to run my class. So this can be shared across that. I can put it on a website. I can share it among multiple platforms, and then my students can work in any of those platforms. They can make changes, they can add comments, they can add new ideas, and in the end they can start to build their ideas. I would use this as a kickoff, as a warm-up to maybe a recorded session, and we could continue the discussion. I could make a video for them later to explain how this process worked and what the class thought as a whole. So I hope you like my introduction of debategraph.org, and thanks.